What's up, Star Wars fans? My name is Prince, and I'm an urban acolyte. So I want to talk about this idea of the chosen one in Star Wars, and I'll probably be covering this in 2 videos. So make sure that you have the notifications enabled so that you'll know when I post the other video in this series. And just a little bit of a heads up, I'm working on a series on Darth Vader for December that'll kind of be tied into these Chosen One videos that I'm doing. So subscribe and ring that bell for notifications because you won't want to miss the Vader series coming next month. So back to this idea of the Chosen One. In the Phantom Menace, we first got introduced to this prophecy of the Chosen One by Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon introduced this prophecy of a chosen one who would be conceived purely by the midichlorians. And then we learn from Mace Windu that this person is to bring balance to the Force. Now, at this point in time, we as the audience have to ask the question, well, what does this mean to bring balance to the Force? Are the Jedi incapable of bringing balance to the Force? Is it the will of the Force to be in balance? Like, what does this really mean? Is the Force this thing that's like a scale that has to be balanced? Is it something like the Dharma wheel or the idea of the Tao where it's this cyclical thing and the idea of balance is not some 50-50 split between light and darkness, but this kind of play that goes on where one leads to the other. Darkness rises and light to meet it, as Supreme Leader Snoke would later say in The Last Jedi. So this is what we're literally seeing in the Phantom Menace. Darkness rises and light to meet it. The Phantom Menace is Sheev Palpatine. It's his political ascent from senator from Naboo to the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic. But it's also the re-emergence of the Sith Order after waiting in the shadows, plotting their revenge ever since the Great Scourge of Malachor. So you see Palpatine's rise in political power, and as a Sith Lord, it coincided with the appearance of Anakin Skywalker, who the Jedi believed to be the chosen one of this prophecy. The thing is, the way the Jedi interpreted the prophecy changed due to the galactic events of the time. And this is how prophecies work in the real world. People interpret these prophetic statements from their past based on what's happening in their present reality. The idea that the chosen one was to bring balance to the Force was interpreted as destroying the Sith. So to go back to that original question, well, how does the chosen one bring balance to the Force? The chosen one brings balance to the Force by destroying the Sith. For the Jedi of the prequel era, it was the presence of the Sith that unbalanced the Force. There was not some other interpretation of the Force like that the Force had a will or that maybe the Jedi's philosophy just might be flawed. This is something that Qui-Gon's philosophical view of the Force and the galactic events introduced, and Luke Skywalker's views on the Force reflect that in The Last Jedi. So I'm just saying, if you didn't like Luke in The Last Jedi, he's basically picking up on the same path that Qui-Gon was on when he became one with the Force. Now, in the Book of the Sith, Plagueis the Wise actually gives us more information about the prophecy of the Chosen One. Plagueis wrote that the Jedi were awaiting the coming of a savior, a prophesied Chosen One who would destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. The Jedi told tales of a place called Mortis, where 3 all-powerful beings could assume strange shapes and exemplify the dark side, the light side, and the principle of balance. The Jedi believed that this chosen one would be a vessel of pure Force energy who would prevent the gods and demons of Mortis from tearing the universe apart. Now, we actually saw all of this come to pass during the Mortis arc on the Clone Wars. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, they traveled to the world of Mortis. Anakin proved that he had the ability to tame both the son and the daughter, proving that he actually is the chosen one of the prophecy of Mortis. The chosen one was to bring balance to the Force by preventing the son and the daughter from tearing the universe apart by taking the father's place and representing the principle of balance. Now see, in this arc, we actually got to see the shift in George Lucas's understanding of the Force and the direction that Star Wars was going to be moving in. So, see, you guys need to hear this clearly. This was not a change introduced in the Disney version of Star Wars. George Lucas introduced this new way of looking at the Force and the galaxy in terms of selfish and selfless decisions, and not purely light and darkness or good and bad. Star Wars hasn't become gray. It's the idea that whether you represent the good guys or the bad guys, your choices still come from a place of making choices to serve your own ends or to put the wants and needs of others ahead of your own desires. And the whole idea of light and dark is that those choices that you make, they can lead you down one of those particular paths. With Anakin, he made a very selfish decision on Mortis. He chose not to fulfill his destiny as the father saw it by staying there on Mortis to watch over the son and the daughter. Anakin fulfilled the prophecy by killing the father and the son. This all after the son's inability to control the darkness within himself, which led to his sister's death at his own hands. This is something I want you all to remember. See, the son had a natural affinity to the dark side. When he gave himself completely over to the darkness, he wasn't really in control anymore. He made that choice, and by making that choice, he surrendered his own free will. I'm saying all of this because I'm going to return to that point in a future video about Kylo Ren and why I don't see him having a redemption in Episode 9. So store that somewhere because I plan to return to that idea. Now, getting back to the whole chosen one idea and how Anakin fulfills his prophecy, he eventually had to kill the son and the father. Recall the father's last words to Anakin. He says that, well, perhaps you'll have the opportunity to do this again on a grander scale. And Anakin does. He literally has to sacrifice the father, meaning himself, as Darth Vader, Luke's father, in order to destroy the darkness that has cast its shadow over the galaxy, meaning his master, Darth Sidious. So the prophecy is fulfilled in Anakin Skywalker's actions. He fulfills the prophecy of Mortis, and he also fulfills the Jedi's prophecy of the Chosen One by destroying the Sith and bringing balance to the Force. Now, many fans feel like the prophecy was unfulfilled, that Anakin was not the Chosen One because, well, what happened? There was the emergence of the First Order. Snoke emerged from the shadows and wherever he'd been all this time, and the eventual rise of Anakin's grandson, Ben Solo, as the eventual Supreme Leader of the First Order. There was the destruction of Luke's new Jedi Order and Ben's turn to the dark side. It was everything that Anakin did when he fell to the dark side being repeated by his grandson. So here's the thing about prophecies and these ideas of some kind of prophesied savior. They're always vague. I mean, you can look at our real world religions that involve the emergence of some kind of messianic figure. They come and establish a new age. Things change. But over time, things begin to decline all over again. Those traditions also involve some kind of prophecy about the return of a messianic figure, or that someone even greater will come to establish a new age of peace and tranquility after a period of chaos. Now, I'm not saying that there are other prophecies about the emergence of a chosen one or the reincarnation of a chosen one like you see in so many Star Wars theory videos here on YouTube. I'm just saying that in the actual Star Wars canon, you have these people who say, well, maybe we got it wrong. Maybe the prophecy was misunderstood. Obi-Wan went from believing that Anakin was the chosen one who would destroy the Sith to wondering how Anakin could become one who would leave the galaxy in darkness when he left Anakin to burn in the volcanic ashes of Mustafar. During his time in communion with Qui-Gon Jinn while he was exiled on Tatooine, Obi-Wan came to believe that Luke was the chosen one. Even though Qui-Gon existed in a state where past and future all ran together, as we saw in the World Between Worlds, he never told Obi-Wan anything different. Luke would later come to believe that his nephew, Ben Solo, would be the chosen one who would restore balance. Now, we as the audience, we know that Anakin Skywalker was the chosen one. Anakin fulfilled the prophecy. I think that moving forward, this prophecy might be something that's a bit of a joke for the audience. People will be awaiting the arrival of this chosen one, And special people might emerge, like Rey, who will make people in the story stop and think, could this person be the Messiah that we've been expecting all along? It'll always be that question that the people in the story, and maybe even the audience will have, that, well, maybe we got it wrong. Maybe this is the real chosen one. I think that's an idea that can make Star Wars always stay fresh. The idea that anyone can step up to become the hero that performs these selfless acts of bravery to restore hope, to restore balance and tranquility. But as for the chosen one prophecy, that was clearly Anakin Skywalker. The idea that I would like to leave with all of you is that, well, the chosen one can be like the Buddha. Think of it as a kind of title. Buddha, it just means awakened one. But we can also be referring to one particular Buddha, the person who set the whole Dharma wheel in motion. There were many awakened, enlightened individuals before Siddhartha, and there have been many to come after him. In the same vein, I would like to see many remarkable people step forward in the future of Star Wars who will play their own part in restoring balance to the Force. Now, I have more to say on this, and I'll pick it up in the next video on this topic that will actually answer a question about the idea of the chosen one being a person who emerges in each generation in Star Wars. So check back for that video. As for this one, well, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what I had to say. So with regards to Anakin being the chosen one, even though George Lucas said that Anakin clearly is the chosen one, do you feel that Anakin fulfilled the prophecy? Do you believe that Anakin is the chosen one? And if you don't, I'd like to know why you think that Anakin is not the chosen one. What, in your opinion, did he not accomplish? And if you disagree, I'm not going to bark at you. I mean, my cousin DJ has been a Star Wars fan from the very beginning, and he asked me to do a video on what Anakin did to deserve becoming a Force ghost at the end of Return of the Jedi. And I actually plan to do that video as part of my Vader series in December. So yeah, it's okay to disagree with George Lucas on this whole Anakin being the chosen one thing. But I'm kind of tired of talking about this for now. So please, let me know your thoughts on this topic down in the comments below, and I'll be checking back to see what you all have to say. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and click on that subscribe button and take your first steps towards becoming an urban acolyte. Embark on your journey to becoming the hero of your own story and become a force for change in your community. Continue to support the channel. You can do that by checking out more videos from this channel, like my video on Finn in Star Wars Episode 9 or the Boba Fett video from a few days ago. Anyway, that's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the force of others be with you. Always.